when you go back to the offseason of last year and you think about what could they have done differently to necessarily avoid this? Now, they would have went through a swoon still. I don't think one player was going to change everything, but
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I'm one of your hosts, Stacey Gotsoulias. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, there you are.
Stacey, ready to have some fun?
I am. We're doing something different this week, and it's going to be fun. And I think we're going to try and do this every week for the foreseeable future. We'll see how it goes. Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. So today's show, we'll be talking about MLB news and rumors. We'll talk about Juan Soto and Aaron Judge winning the Silver Slugger. Spoiler alert. But first, we're trying a new thing. We're calling it What If Wednesday. And our what if for this week is one thing that you would change about the 2024 season. So all of you listening, viewing, if you are listening, head over to YouTube and leave a comment. If you're already watching on YouTube, leave your comment below and let us know what your one change would be for 2024, because we are interested in seeing your answers and if your answers are similar to ours. Brian, you get to go first.
So, Stacey, I thought about this for a while, and the Yankees, it's hard to come up with necessarily things that they should necessarily change, right? Because people are always going to have the retort of, well, they won the American League pennant, they went to the World Series. How much better could they have possibly been? But what people forget is in the middle of the season, they had an awful swoon that we were having multiple meltdowns on per week on bad losses, awful appearances. They lost the game to the White Sox, for God's sake, and they won like 10 games this year. So when you go back to the offseason of last year and you think about what could they have done differently to necessarily avoid this? Now, they would have went through a swoon still. I don't think one player was going to change everything, but they would have went through a swoon, but maybe could have avoided that, or maybe a player could have given them a little bit more, energy or spoof when they needed it, that they tended to not have. And the thing that I would have changed from last offseason, I would have bolstered up the corner infield positions compared to what the Yankees actually wound up doing. Now, if you remember last year, they brought back Anthony Rizzo on a 2-year deal, 1 year deal with a second-year option that they just declined. That clearly did not wind up working out. Anthony Rizzo played in 97 games, which it felt like a lot less than 97. Mm-hmm. Played in 97 games, hit .228 with a .301 on base percentage, hit 8 homers and 35 RBIs, pretty much gave you nothing at first base. Mm-hmm. So you already immediately had nothing at first base. A lot of those games were played by DJ LeMahieu. He also gave you nothing at first base. And the other games were played by Ben Rice, who gave you nothing at first base. So you really had nothing out of the entire first base position. And when I go to the other corner outfield position, their big move to fill in third base was Jon Berti, who, yes, felt like a nice move, felt like a move that you liked as a Yankee fan. Don't know if you necessarily loved it. It wasn't a big splash move. It's not like Jon Berti's this guy that's been in the major leagues for 10 years and has been killing it. He's a nice, solid, analytical dream of a player, but not really this, player that should be expected to play all year. Well, Jon Berti played in 25 games for the Yankees, hit .273 with a .342 on base, 1 homer, 6 RBIs. I know you can't predict injuries, but you could have tried to sign guys who are a little more stable when it comes to injuries, or guys that put up bigger numbers. Now, I know last year was not the offseason like it is this year, where they're going to be spending a gobs of money on a Juan Soto, which gives them a little less flexibility to sign other guys. Last year, they had more flexibility, and they didn't use the money. One player that I think they could have got for cheaper that I would have went after, who wound up having a decent year, not a great year, but a decent year, and again would have been cheaper, is Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins signed with the Milwaukee Brewers after leaving the Phillies, after having a really good year with the Phillies. He was off the year before because he had the injury. and then was with the Phillies prior to that. Played really well, had a low batting average. The Phillies don't really love that. For the Milwaukee Brewers this year, who by the way he was on this exact same deal Rizzo had, the 2-year deal for $32 million. Played in 131 games, had a 214 batting average, 303 on base. Not great, right? But 30 homers and 79 RBIs, which is way more productive than Anthony Rizzo was. Imagine if you had that bat in the middle of your lineup. Could have definitely helped in the middle of the year when they were struggling to score runs, having that extra bat. And I know the average isn't high, but compared to what Rizzo did, is it that bad? Is it that bad with much higher power numbers? And the other guy that I wanted to bring up too, that they could have got at third base, that I would have loved at third base, that I think a lot of Yankee fans were talking about for third base, the Yankees seem to just not make an effort at signing, was Matt Chapman. Now, the market was very, very weird for Matt Chapman last offseason, very low. He wound up signing a 6-year extension in September of this year, actually, after playing the whole full year with the Giants. But he was with the Giants for a full year, and listen to what he did, Stacey. First of all, he played in 154 games. So he only missed the 8 games, and it was for rest management, those kind of things, which the Yankees, I can guarantee you, by the way, he wouldn't have played 154 games with the Yankees. They would have sat him in more games just cause. But regardless of that, he hit 247 with a 328 on base, 27 homers, 78 RBIs. Plays every day, a productive player. Compared to what they got at the third base position this year, that is gobs more than they got from anyone at third base this year. Even if you would have signed just one of those guys, which, by the way, the Yankees could have easily fit both of those guys because it would have cost them about the same amount of money they were spending on first and third base. Matt Chapman signed a 1-year deal for $18 million last year. Very affordable. They would have let him go to free agency this year, probably. I don't think they would give him the 6-year extension the Giants gave him, which is totally fine. But they could have fit Matt Chapman under their cap very easily. They could have fit Rhys Hoskins even easier under the same price cap that Anthony Rizzo wound up costing them. And Anthony Rizzo wound up giving you a lot less. Rhys Hoskins is a lot younger than Anthony Rizzo was. And Matt Chapman is just an overall better player than John Birdie. Either of these moves would have worked, and I think putting either of these guys in the middle of your lineup last year would have avoided the swoon being as bad as it was. Also, for the postseason, when Judge wasn't hitting, I'm sorry, having Matt Chapman there would have been a lot more effective than, Jazz Chisholm, who didn't hit in the postseason, who kind of got a pass because Aaron Judge was so bad that no one really thought about, Jazz, how bad he was. Not to mention Matt Chapman is an elite level third baseman, and fielding is something that the Yankees really struggled with this year. I just think this production and this level of health would have made a difference for them. And I know they won the AL pennant. I know that they went to the World Series, but these moves still could have made a big difference. And, Stacey, I can't help but sit here and think, how were these guys missed on and not, at least talked about a little more, or at least brought in a little more? It doesn't make much sense to me.
It's that whole loyalty thing. They were just really loyal to Rizzo. Again, I think it's the Judge connection. He's close with Judge, so he wasn't going anywhere. I'm just struck by he had 8 home runs, 35 runs driven in. Hoskins had nearly 4 times as many home runs with 30. Maybe only had 2 more. He'd have 4 times as many home runs, and he more than doubled his RBI total. With a 214 average, I don't care about the average. If you're hitting 30 home runs and driving in 80 runs, you could bat 115 and I wouldn't care, because as long as you're hitting the ball out of the park, it doesn't matter.
And his average likely would have been higher too, because Hoskins would have been hitting somewhere behind Judge and Rizzo and Stanton all year, which means there would have been guys on base, so they would have been forced to give him pitches to hit. Also, that lefty bat, Yankee Stadium, probably would have created some more damage too. So that 30 home runs would have likely been somewhere between 35 and 36 home runs.
Or even more than that. I mean, Soto hit 41. Yeah, Soto wasn't known as a huge home run hitter. He could, but he was like, when he came over, everyone's like, oh, be prepared. He's going to hit oppo doubles and you'll get some home runs out of him, but it's mostly going to be that. And then he gets a career high in home runs with the Yankees. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I would agree with that. And I really think, the John Birdie thing was bad because he got injured and then you didn't see him for the whole time, really.
Well, I know you can't predict injuries, and I don't want to blame it on the injury, but overall, Stacey, I mean, who's the better player, John Birdie or Matt Chapman? You know what I mean? To me, you can't. Yes, you can sit there and say the injuries aren't fair.
Right, but they didn't sign John Birdie to start, did they?
No, well, I think they did. I mean, who was the scheduled starter? He started opening day at third base.
Because DJ LeMahieu was injured.
Yeah, but he started opening day, and I think they were
But
going to split time.
But that's only because DJ LeMahieu was injured. If DJ LeMahieu wasn't injured, then the Matt Chapman thing doesn't really matter because John Birdie would just be a backup. It's all because of DJ LeMahieu being injured that all of that happened. Because when did he hurt his foot? When was that? At some point in spring training, and then he was out for the first however many months it was. The thing that gets me is it's just funny that they sign someone to be a backup and then he gets hurt. Because he has to start because the starter gets hurt, because that's what happens with the Yankees.
But also, I mean, originally DJ LeMahieu was signed with the team when he first got moved over from Colorado to be the ultra utility guy. That was the purpose. So you could have still signed Matt Chapman and put him at third base and made DJ the utility guy. He plays when Chapman gets off and second base and first base. DJ LeMahieu would have had a spot to be used. And again,
if they wouldn't do that after it's like we've spoken about this. The Yankees have weird loyalty toward people due to their past performance, and they don't think about when they fall apart in the future. Like they can't drag them off the stage. They don't get that cane and drag them off the stage when they should. They just let them go out there, and that's basically what happened with DJ LeMahieu.
You're right, and it's not right. It's not the way it should be done, but that's what they've done for a while.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Again, I feel like the Rizzo stuff too. I feel like Rizzo was brought back. It sounds weak and a bad complaint, but it feels like he was brought back because he's buddies with Aaron Judge, which is ridiculous. You should not be making decisions on the team based on who you're. Judge signed. He's here long term. If you don't
he's not going anywhere,
and Judge is aggravated, what's going to happen? He's not going anywhere. You got to be able to make these more difficult decisions. And I know we're in the era of making athletes happy, but I mean, Rhys Hoskins would have been a far better signing than keeping Anthony Rizzo. Far better.
Yep. Well, that was a good one. Again, if you're watching this, leave the comment below. Tell us what you think or what you feel your one change would be. And if you're listening, head over to YouTube and leave a comment and let us know what your one change would be for 2024. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to all the news and the rumors. We send out all those news and rumors and any kind of signings, trades, breaking news, so you don't have to check social media. And there's a 14-day free trial. All right, so coming up, what would I change about the 2024 season? The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. You can get coverage for up to $1 million for as little as $20 per month. Head to SelectQuote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Go to SelectQuote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/lockedon. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. Remember, every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club and get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. Okay, so we're talking about the one thing we would change about the 2024 season. And my choice is kind of surprising because I'm surprised it wasn't your choice, because I'm going with... I would have moved Clay Holmes out of the closer role sooner. Would it have changed much? In the grand scheme of things, probably not. They still would have made the playoffs. They probably still would have made the World Series. They would have won more games. They maybe would have not gone into such a funk because a bunch of his blown saves were past the All-Star break. We'll talk about that. But it's interesting because I was looking through everything and seeing when everything happened and how everything happened. And the first bad blip of his was actually April 3rd against Arizona, because remember, the Yankees started off on the road and they did well on the road, but he did blow a win. So he blew a save and then they ended up winning the game and he got the win in that game. And it wasn't exactly his fault because it was 3 unearned runs. So I won't blame him for that. But his next big blip wasn't until May 20th. And I know there were some iffy outings in between there, but this was the first big blow up by him. It was against Seattle. It was at home. The Yankees were going into the top of the 9th, up 4-1, and they ended up losing 5-4 because for some unknown reason, after he gave up, I think it was a single, a walk, he got a ground out, so there was 1 out, and then he gave up single, sack, and it's like, okay, I know that whoever's coming in behind him needs to warm up, but after you see him losing it a bit after like the first 3 or 4 batters, why aren't you bringing someone in sooner, and why are you letting this game go away? And they ended up losing that game. So, okay, so April 3rd, blown save and a win. May 20th against Seattle, blown save and a loss. May 28th, just a blown save, Yankees ended up losing. Also, he blows 13 saves. The Yankees win 8 of those games. No, excuse me, lose 8 of those games, win 5 of those games.
Which actually, weirdly enough, though, is a record that you would take in blown saves.
Right.
Like I mean, I feel like most blown saves result in losses.
That's a big deal, though, because 8 losses that shouldn't have been losses if he had done his job. It's kind of like, wow, okay, so instead of winning, if they would have been closer to 100, right, their record would have looked more imposing heading into the playoffs. It's funny, he actually blew 2 saves against Kansas City. One was the loss on June 13th, that really bad one that kind of that spoiled that series because they would have won 4 in a row, and he blew that save on the last day. He also blew a save against them in September, on September 11th, but the Yankees ended up winning that game. They actually ended up winning the last 2 games in which he blew saves. The next bad blown save was September 3rd against Texas. Do we remember that he gave up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning against Texas and lost that game? So if you break it down, he had 1 blown save in April, 2 in May, 1 in June, 4 in July, 2 in August, 3 in September. So really from July 5th, which was a blown save against Boston, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losses, 4 wins in just that span right there. Again, they would have made the playoffs anyway, but around the time when the trade deadline was happening, he already had 6 blowups. Yeah. And those were the ones where he ended up actually losing. There were other games where you were just like, oh God, because he was doing things where you were just thinking he's going to blow this, he's going to blow, and then he didn't blow it. And I think at that point, at the end of July, when he blew that save against Boston on July 26th, I think the Yankees should have been like, maybe we should go after someone in the trade market, like maybe like a Tanner Scott or, like you always wanted, Mason Miller. They didn't do that. They were able to fix the bullpen. They discovered that Luke Weaver could actually perform as a closer, but it was like in that aspect. No, but in that aspect, it was too little too late at that point. You couldn't really do anything with Holmes. Like you had to use him. And there were some instances where he was fine and then other instances when he was not fine. So it just took them too long. And again, it's the loyalty to a guy like, oh, he did really well for us 2 years ago. Okay, so that was 2 years ago. And now you need to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We need to move you to a different spot in the bullpen. Can you do this for us? Okay, great. And try and put someone else there or try and get someone who can be there, because this whole being loyal to players because of their past performance comes back to bite them in the butt.
I mean, we keep saying this, but it's true how Game 5 wound up being a microcosm of the entire Yankee season. Clay Holmes was the guy who started that crazy inning for the Dodgers when they took the lead back for good. He was the one who loaded the bases and couldn't find the zone, and we unfortunately saw that. I really do feel like, even though these stats that you're showing with the 13 blown saves, these seem, really awful for a closer. let's not forget, there's plenty of games where he got himself into a lot of trouble and squeezed out of it. This doesn't even tell the whole story. There's plenty of games where he comes in and just doesn't have it. And the 3-batter rule really hurts a guy like Clay Holmes, because when he doesn't have it, he does not have it, because he's either walking the ballpark or he's leaving a pitch right over the middle of the plate. So there's really, it's hard to defend this one. It really is. And again, the loyalty to a guy who isn't a homegrown Yankee, I hate to be this guy, but it's the truth. A lot of moves that Cashman's made over the years, it does seem to become an ego thing where he forces that guy in because he needs to be right. And it does seem like Clay Holmes is one of those guys that he traded for, and everyone gave credit of, oh my God, it's this guy that Cashman found out of nowhere. Who is this guy? Clay Holmes stole him from the Pirates. They didn't know what they had, and he's the elite closer. And Cashman is so desperate to prove to everybody that he is right, that he found this diamond in the rough, that he's going to forcibly make Clay Holmes pitch until he is that guy that's the diamond in the rough. And he never became that guy. And, we should not be giving them credit for Luke Weaver. They fell into that. They really did. They stepped in a pile of dog poop and found $100 bill underneath. They did not realize that Luke Weaver was Luke Weaver. They didn't know Luke Weaver was Luke Weaver. They just happened to get lucky with that. So I agree with you. And I was in on this the entire offseason, that the trade deadline. I wanted Mason Miller. Tanner Scott was available. There were plenty of guys available that they just chose to not go after for whatever reason. While I hate to bring this up, but it's the truth. While Spencer Jones was striking out 200 times in the minor leagues, you could not part ways with him for Mason Miller, who was throwing 103 miles an hour. I don't understand, but I could say this. I would have rather had Mason Miller pitching in Game 5 than Clay Holmes.
By the way, the game against Seattle on May 20th, where he gave up the 4 runs and they lost 5-4, it just came to me and I just needed to double check it. But that was the game that Marcus Stroman pitched, where he did really well against the Mariners. And then he came out on, I think it was on Instagram stories, and he was just like, Clay's our closer, things happen, this and that. And I was just like, hopefully this doesn't happen a lot of times, but and that can't feel good either, because you're tasked with holding on to a win for another player, and when you blow it, I can't imagine how bad that feels. And for 13 times, he basically messed it up for someone else.
That's why closers get paid more than any other relievers.
Yeah.
That's why.
That is not an easy job. That's not an easy job. And, I feel bad for Clay Holmes, because, when he's on, he's really good, but he's one of those guys who, when he's off, he's really off. And when he's on, he needs to be really consistent and pitch all the time, because if he falls out of any kind of rhythm, just with the way he throws the ball, he just goes all over the place. Yeah. And I don't know what the solution to that is.
That and the fact this is a problem that's gone on for a while now, and it's going to continue. The most unfair job in baseball is being the Yankee closer, because Yankee fans have an expectation that's completely unrealistic of that position. They just do.
Yeah, as good as Mo was, it's bad for everyone else now until the end of time.
You can't, because it's just not fair, because Yankee fans are Yankee fans, and their expectation for a closer is to blow a save per year, which is not possible.
Mo didn't even do that. So
yeah.
All right. So again, let us know below what your one change would be. I'm hoping that there are a lot of different one changes that you guys have. I was jokingly going to say that I wouldn't have put Nestor on the World Series roster, which would have changed the entire World Series, but I didn't think I could talk about that for more than 2 minutes. So I figured I'd change it to Clay Holmes. Coming up next, some news and rumors from around the league.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place all of your bets. And guys, Champions League's rolling around in soccer in Europe if you're into that. The tennis season is going to be getting going starting in the winter. Football is heating up. It's in the middle of the season. College football playoff is getting going. Everything. It's all available on FanDuel. So on the weekdays or the weekends, FanDuel is your place to be. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's all available on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel. It's the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So, Stacey, the awards are being leaked for Silver Slugger today. A lot of big names, Mookie Betts, Jose Altuve, winning their awards. But the Yankees had two, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. They're two MVP candidates also. We've stated it all year, and I don't think there's much really more that we can actually say. But two otherworldly years, regardless of what happened in the postseason, two all-time years out of both of them. Really, I mean, both were great, jaw-dropping, everything that you could have possibly expected and more. I still can't believe the year Aaron Judge put up. I actually, as weird as this sounds, I can believe the year Juan Soto put up. It makes sense. He's a great player. The year Aaron Judge put up is just otherworldly to me still.
Like I said earlier, I was surprised by how many home runs Soto hit, but I'm not surprised that he was such a good player. And with Judge, yeah, I mean, my God, what a year he had, considering he didn't do anything for the first month.
Yeah. I mean, it's even crazy when you think of it at that. He was non-existent for the month of April and wound up finishing up the numbers he did. Inexplainable, and I think once the MVP results are released, Judge will be a shoo-in for the MVP. There, I don't think there's going to be any doubt in anyone's mind. He could. You think? What are the chances you think that he wins unanimous MVP?
No, I don't think
Think so.
No.
You think Soto gets a lot of? You think Wick gets a lot of votes?
I think so. Yeah,
I could see that happening. I don't know if Soto will get a ton just because he's on the same team as Judge, but I think Witt will get a good amount of votes. I think Judge will win probably in a landslide, but Witt will get a good amount of votes. Other news pertaining to the Yankees, weirdly enough, this team's been lurking the last couple of years. I expect there's going to be a year coming up where they do land a big free agent. I don't think it'll be this one, but they will land someone. Toronto Blue Jays, they are granted the first meeting with Juan Soto. If you remember last year, they met with Ohtani first also, which was very strange. The people were like, oh, he's going to sign in Toronto because they found him on a plane going towards Toronto. He wound up not signing there. They've been flirting.
And he wasn't on the plane either.
Yeah. They've been flirting with spending money over the last couple of years. I do wonder if they wind up landing a free agent in the next couple of years. Again, I don't know. It's not going to be Juan Soto, in my opinion. I can't picture him signing in Toronto, but be on the lookout for them to give someone money, even if it's someone that doesn't necessarily deserve. I think there's a really good chance Teoscar Hernandez winds up back there.
That could happen, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they threw a lot of money at Pete Alonso. So, something could be brewing there. They've been looking to spend money over the last couple of years, and they're going to have to shake things up because they had a really, really bad year compared to expectations this year. But be on the lookout for that because it's going to be very interesting to see what they do.
Red Sox are going to meet with him.
Yeah, they're the second team that's going to get a meeting with Juan Soto.
And then the Mets, which isn't surprising because they're the ones that everyone was talking about even before the season started because they're like, oh, Steve Cohen's just going to open up his checkbook and be like, here, what do you want? I'll give you whatever you want. And then the Yankees and their whole posse are going to head out to see Juan Soto.
I mean, listen, the Red Sox do spend money when they want to.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I don't think I can't picture him going to the Red Sox. I think winning is a slight priority with him too. So I doubt he winds up with the Red Sox. The Mets and Yankees is going to be a bidding war. And then I'm sure it'll leak later on of other teams that are going to be interested in meeting with him. I still think the Dodger rumor is just Boris putting out Dodgers to get the price value up. I don't think there's any chance that he's on to the Dodgers or they're going to pay him that money. But it's going to be fascinating. We'll obviously cover it as the more news comes out on it. But I have a feeling it's going to be a very slow process.
Yeah. We're just going to be sitting here waiting So
yep. And then we'll freak out when he doesn't sign, or we'll freak out when he does sign. We'll see what happens. Other news around the baseball docket, Stacey. Tropicana Field will not be ready for the Rays to use next year. I don't know if you've seen the pictures. There is no roof on the stadium.
No.
And if
there's also no drainage system either, because
clearly,
why would you have a drainage system on the field if you have a roof? But now that they don't have a roof and it was blown off by a hurricane, by the way, there's another one that may be heading that way. So prayers up for Tampa again, because there could be more damage to the building after that, the next one. So who knows?
So who knows where they wind up playing? Who knows what winds up happening? The Tampa Bay Rays are just a disaster of an organization. They don't lose. Like, they're not a disaster organization that loses. They just a
Not
disaster
anymore.
organization. Yeah, they just, whatever it is, they just can't figure things out. And, this is not good. What are they going to play at a AAA stadium? Probably.
I mean, there are some options there because the Blue Jays played in their AAA stadium in Buffalo for a while, but I think there are some people, because of the rumors of the team possibly moving and possibly playing in Montreal, the people are like, oh, they should play in Montreal now because they can.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting, but I don't know. They'll probably stay in Florida, just figure out a way to utilize a minor league stadium. Obviously not Steinbrenner Field, but some other minor league stadium. Yeah, that stinks though. That was brutal. It's not the first hurricane that's hit Tampa, but that roof was completely shredded off.
Yep. And they can't spend the money to make it an outdoor stadium and just completely shred the roof off, because there's scaffolding and there's wiring and stuff that all goes with that roof too.
And the drainage system that they'd have to put in, that would be multi-million dollars, and they'd have to dig everything up and then put it. It would be. They might as well build a new stadium,
which they're not keen on doing either. So
yeah.
And in other news, Travis d'Arnaud signed with the Angels, 2 years, $12 million. I guess we're going into another offseason where the Angels don't look to sign a pitcher. It's just all about hitting and hitting and hitting. I don't understand, but
they are one of the most confounding organizations in baseball. They've had Mike Trout his whole career. They had Shohei Ohtani for the first 5-6 years of his career. Wasted them.
Yep.
Wasted them. Mike Trout has played in how many playoff games? 3? 4.
Yep.
4. You had two of the best players literally in the history of baseball. Yep. We're not talking generation. We're talking in the history of baseball. You had two of the best players and you've wasted them. And Ohtani, okay, fine. He was young. He went to the Angels. He thought maybe something could happen. And then he smartly left and went to the Dodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Trout had a chance to leave and was like, no, I'm going to sign a 13-year deal. Okay, sir. Good job there. I
think he winds up getting traded at some point. They're going to have to.
Yeah, I think so.
But what a disaster.
They're so confusing, that organization.
It's every year with them. And then they have Anthony Rendon stuck on a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
Who the heck knows what's going on there, too? A guy that has no desire to play baseball.
Right. And the GM was like, yeah, he needs to prove that he wants to play. It's like, he already admitted that he doesn't even want to play. So why bother?
You already signed him to the deal, so he doesn't have to prove anything to you.
Yeah.
You gave him, he should have proved that to you 2 off seasons ago when you gave him $275 million. That's when he should have proved it to you. And you were proven wrong, I guess, because that was an awful, awful, awful signing.
Can you imagine, though? I can't imagine being a pro baseball player and admitting that you don't want to play, that you don't enjoy playing.
It happened to be something he was good at. For some people, that's what sports is. It's just something that you happen to be good at, and you carried it as far as it went, and it took you to hundreds. But doesn't it
feel like he's stealing money because he's barely playing?
Yeah, but there's a lot of guys in sports that are like that.
Yeah,
a lot of guys who had no interest in playing the sport. They just happen to be really good at it.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think about from our perspective, but there's a lot of guys in the history of sports that are like that.
Yeah, I'm not. What am I that good at? Getting angry really quickly. That's what I'm really good at.
You'd be a pro at it, yeah.
I'm a pro at that. I can make millions of dollars. Let's find a way for me to do that.
I don't think anyone's going to be willing to give you millions of dollars to watch you get angry, but if you find the guy, good for you.
So again, let us know what your one change to 2024 would be. Leave the comments down below. Also, leave your questions for Fan Mail Friday beneath the pinned comment. I will put it up.
And get creative. Don't throw at us fire Boone, fire Cashman. We know, that's the complaint every year. But they weren't going to do that anyway, and they're not going to do that clearly. So get a little creative.
Yeah. Again, it's the off season. You can get personal, not too personal, but if you're a new viewer and you don't know some of the answers to our questions about personal stuff, we'll answer them again. It's fine because we've gotten a lot of new people in. There's a big influx of you guys during the playoffs because people like watching the Yankees lose the World Series. So,
really?
But we thank you guys for all for joining us and for subscribing to us and leaving nice comments and leaving nice comments on social media. I had someone follow me on Blue Sky on Tuesday saying how much he loves the show. So I appreciate that. That's always nice to hear, and keep doing that. Keep telling us. And also, call us out if we make mistakes, and call us out if you don't agree with us. That's fine. Just be nice about it. That's all we ask for. Okay. Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully gives you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you tomorrow.